we need, suggested Toby, is to listen to a story. A mysterious story, said Percy. But, added Duck, it must have a happy ending. Driver told me a story, said Thomas. So everyone listened. Once upon a time, began Thomas, there were 3 little engines who lived in their own little shed on their own little railway.
The Mid-Sodor Railway is one of the most fascinating pieces in the history of Sodor. Despite having numerous pages of extra lore, including a slew of engines never seen in the books being written by the Reverend Wilbur Awdry, the railway would only prevalently feature in the 4th series of Thomas and Friends. It then appears abandoned in Series 5's Toby's Discovery, before never being seen again. But watching back those Series 4 episodes, it's really hard not to pay attention to the fact that so many of the Mid-Sodor locations are just the sets from the Skarloey Railway. Now many people have since looked back on this as being some hint to the idea that the Skarloey and Mid-Sodor were at one point connected, but I honestly don't think that was ever the idea. Shots are composed at angles that makes the stations appear slightly different or mask where they actually are, and in particular many of the shots in You Can't Win, which probably features the most Skarloey Railway locations, has multiple scenes take place in the evening, lending different lighting to familiar sets to further differentiate them. And that's where this video comes in. Today I will be looking at the sets of the Skarloey Railway that were used in the first 4 episodes of the 4th series of the show, and explaining which Mid-Sodor locations I personally think they represent. Obviously none of these are set in stone and none of it's canon, just look at the wiki and you will see they are just simply listed as being the Skarloey Railway sets in the Mid-Sodor episodes, but I'm going to do it anyway. Hello, you're watching Can You See Fish? And let's get started with Grandpuff. The majority of Grandpuff takes place at the main Mid-Sodor sheds, although some other locations are seen as part of montages, but we'll get onto some of those later. It's very apparent that this particular set doesn't depict the shed as being part of the Skarloey Railway, as it is directly based on the illustration depicted in the books. This particular set was used once outside of the Duke episodes for a brief shot in Gallant Old Engine. However, since the episode Sleeping Beauty specifically makes it apparent that Duke's shed, that is also located here, has to be reached on foot and not by rail, I'm going to chalk this up as quite simply a continuity error, rather than an intentional inclusion. The wiki states that these sheds are at Arlesdale, and I'm not going to argue with that, with the halt for the village next to the sheds in both the books and the show. The next major location in this episode is the double berthed shed here. This is actually the Renaeus station set as clearly seen in episodes like 4 Little Engines, and in fact the station platform is briefly seen, although the camera work cleverly disguises it. So where could this be on the Mid-Sodor? Well, the fact that there are engine sheds here implies that this location is either on the upper or lower part of the line, and the fact that there is a watermill located at this station would narrow it down even further as Farquhar Road, a location that is illustrated with one in Jock the New Engine. But unfortunately, You Can't Win disproves this, however, as if it was Farquhar Road and presumably the final location is Arlesborough, that would make the Mountain Road part of the Arlesborough region, which just feels wrong. So instead, I'm going to say that this is actually Alfstead Road, and we'll get on to why later. Are you all confused? Good, let's continue with Grandpuff. The next location that we see as part of a montage is Glenock. Once again, we can use You Can't Win to place this particular station as Marthwaite, because that is a station just after a bridge crossing some water. In this case, the River Arle is shown on Sam's map here, and just before we see Marthwaite, or Glenock in the episode, Duke is seen crossing this bridge in presumably the Marthwaite Woods. The final reused location seen in Grandpuff is the Skarloey Slate Incline Quarry. Since this one is only seen in this particular Mid-Sodor episode, and there is clearly a large mountain in the background, it makes sense for this to be somewhere on the mountain road. There was definitely at one point a quarry or mine at Casney Howen, in the railway series at least, so I'm going to say that this is the representation of that particular mine in the TV series. Okay, 1 episode down, 3 to go. Thankfully, Sleeping Beauty doesn't actually feature any reused locations. I'm just going to theorise that these are quite simply the Skarloey Railway locations representing themselves, and the hunters are searching them because there was a possibility that Duke had been transferred there but never run. Oh, come on, I'm just trying to make it easier for myself. Let's move on to Bulldog. The majority of this episode takes place on the mountain road located in this area here on the map. I'm going to say that Falcon has his accident between these tunnels here, and the reused Renaeus viaduct set is representing an area between these tunnels spanning two of the hills in a perfect straight line. While we're here, I'm going to say that this cliffside set where Duke plays his trick on Stuart is this curve here just after Ulfstead Road, which makes sense in terms of continuity for You Can't Win. Anyway, in Bulldog, after Falcon is rescued, the train crosses the viaduct, goes through Ulfstead Road off screen, and finishes off at Ballamoddy. Makes sense. That's Bulldog taken care of. We're on the final stretch now. Let's move on to the final episode, You Can't Win, which has probably been the most useful and also infuriating episode to figure out these locations. The episode starts with Duke puffing through random locations that we've already discussed, such as Marthwaite, before transitioning to the scene where Duke feels unwell. This is the Krosny-Kern set, but if we assume that Duke directly leaves here with his train, then this secures this station as Valesbridge on the outskirts of Peel Godred. We're about to get into some real headcanon territory now. In the railway series, Peel Godred has a power station that is powered by lakes on the mountainous regions around it. Now on the map there is clearly another lake some way down from Skarloey. But what if in the TV series this second lake was a bit further south than it is on the map, placing it right about here? And the bridge in Valesbridge is not really a traditional kind of brick-built bridge as in Elsbridge, but instead is a causeway, which also ticks off the Mid-Sodor placement of the Hewin Dewey set seen at the beginning of Duke's journey. The picnic hut is the side of this same lake, which is smaller in my headcanon and is located at the bottom of the Ballamoddy Hill. Now with those hurdles jumped, the rest of the episode is pretty much laid out for us. After leaving the side of the lake, Duke climbs Ballamoddy Hill as stated on the wiki, before reaching Ballamoddy Station, here represented by the Skarloey set. This is where Falcon and Stuart join the train. From here, the cavalcade reaches the next station as stated in the episode, which is, as we now know, Ulfstead Road, where there seems to be some kind of continuity error. It states that Falcon takes Duke's passengers, but he clearly doesn't. Duke's passengers are in the blue coaches. These red coaches haven't even been seen yet in this episode, so I will instead presume that this is Falcon's train heading back to King Orry's Bridge to catch a ferry along the river as shown on the map here. Problem solved. From here, Stuart and Duke go along the rest of the mountain road where Duke plays his trick and run the rest of the line off screen before arriving at the set for Croven's Gate. Since we see Thomas here, there has to be standard gauge access, which secures the Croven's Gate set as representing Arlesburg Station, which as we can see has links to the Little Western and is the only station on the Mid-Sodor to have a transfer point between gauges. And with that, it's over. Those are the locations of the Mid-Sodor Railway being represented in the TV series by the same sets as the Skarloey Railway. Let's go through them all in order from Arlesburg. Croven's Gate is Arlesburg. We don't see Arlesburg Bridge Street or Farquhar Road. We cross a bridge in the Marthwaite Forest and arrive at Marthwaite Station, represented here by Glenock, through Arlesdale Green and Duke's Village off screen and get to the Arlesdale Station and main engine sheds. From here we climb the mountain road, first past where Falcon nearly falls and then over the viaduct. Approaching Ulfstead Road we cross this mountain set before arriving at the station, which is represented by Renaeus, with another shed for the engines on the Peel Godred eastern side of the mountains. From here we travel to Ballamoddy, which is indicated by the Skarloey station, and travel down the hill to Valesbridge Lake. We cross the lake via a causeway, represented by Hewin Dewey, before arriving at Valesbridge, shown here by Krosny-Kern. We never see King Orry's Bridge, though it's likely where Falcon takes his train to in You Can't Win, so that makes Valesbridge the most eastern Mid-Sodor railway location, and that's them all. I know this video has been very confusing, but I hope it's been interesting, I hope it's cleared some things up, and I hope that maybe now when you're rewatching those Classic Series 4 episodes, you'll be able to see the locations in a different way and be able to immerse yourself more in the world of the Mid-Sodor. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel for more videos, and until next time, goodbye.
And that, said Thomas, is the whole story. Did you like it? Yes, indeed, agreed the engines. Especially the happy ending.